your own damage and just maybe press W and move forward, right? So interested to see what Echo is going to be showing here, because I think they're a team that like to just press W.
Yeah, no question. Their game one of the day is getting rolling between Echo and Obey Alliance. Let's see what they got for us right now in Plaguefall.
All right, so it looks like we already have an interesting comp here from Echo. They're not going with the Holy Paladin here. So we have a Disc Priest on Echo's side. While Obey Alliance, we already have seen them do this dungeon before, and they are playing with this Paladin. But Echo is doing a huge pull at the very start already, while Obey Alliance is just skipping past this whole area, immediately going to the boss, popping the Bloodlust as well to just nuke down the boss, while Echo is going to get probably even close to 20%, if not more, from this first pull that they're doing here, pulling that whole area.
And we've seen how this particular strat can go wrong yesterday with Golden Guardians from Obey Alliance here, right? They're pretty much all-inning their first set of cooldowns onto the boss, and if you don't perfectly get through all of it, you're going to have some issues if you aren't able to burst it down quickly enough. But it looks like with the Ashen Hollow committed, with all of their cooldowns, they're going to be able to get through the boss before any of those ads spawn and start healing the boss like we saw from Golden Guardians. So just clean execution of the first boss here from Obey Alliance. We're going to have to see what Echo plans on doing here. They don't have the Bloodlust available. They don't have all of their major cooldowns available, right? They don't have that Ashen Hollow on their team. So if I was hazarding a guess, they're probably just going to be going with that Fungalmancer strategy right there. And you can see Gingy's stacking up that Wonder Grow buff on him right now. They've got the Fungalmancer healed to full from Sanguine right there as well. And as long as they're able to pull it off cleanly, it should be enough of a damage boost to get through the boss. But again, we've seen how this strat can go poorly yesterday. Golden Guardians wasn't able to pull it off. So if Echo's able to pull it off, it could be really useful for them later on.
Yeah, definitely. We do see the Fungalmancer just being carried with them. They don't have any like druid utility, they don't have like a root or something to deal with this Fungalmancer or to keep it to seed. I guess Gingy can be the one just seeing it in the corner, but it's a little bit more difficult if you don't have a druid that can root it. We can see this sheep just coming out of Gingy here, just keeping a sheep on the corner, and now they are pulling the boss as well. As Nara mentioned, there's no Bloodlust and no Ashen, but of course they have the extra damage from the mage, so they want to make sure that they have enough damage though before the blobs start reaching the boss and they're running out of those CCs. While Obey Alliance, on the other hand, of course, already done with that first boss, is dealing with that trash area after the first boss, and it looks like they're doing a really solid job. But if you look at the trash percentage, they're only up to 8% now. But of course they have the Plague Borers here, which means that they're going to be dealing with this trash pretty quickly.
Yeah, and there's actually a completely added-in strategy from Echo here. Not only are they going for the Fungalmancer strategy, but if you saw, there were two of those Plague Borers that they pulled into the boss as well, exploded them underneath him, and that, in addition to the mage boosting up, is going to be more than enough to get them through the boss. Now, of course, also they have more ways to CC the blobs on their team. They have that Paralyzed from the Monk, so that should be a lot more safe for them. They're not even seeing the second large ad here, so not going to be an issue for them. They should be able to burn through this relatively quickly here. And with the boss down now to 2%, yep, it's going to go down no problem for them here. So now, Echo, you know, surprisingly, I guess it's not that surprising, they are actually just in the lead now. They have more trash percentage down, and they've got the boss down too, and they still have that mage buff stacking right now. Gingy hasn't dropped it yet. You can see his character model is much larger than his other teams. That's kind of one of the ways you can see how that Wonder Grow is stacking up on him right now. So yeah, he's going to be able to just completely destroy this trash here with the Combust. Watch the numbers here. It's going to be like 400 or 500k damage per flame strike here. Here we go.
Yeah, so this is a huge pull they're doing here. The Spine Breaker on top of this pull as well. Everything gathered up so quickly too. Gingy dropping low. I assume he's got an aggro, but he should be fine as he still has Cauterize available to him. You can see the Fungalmancer just kind of joining in. Sally having a little bit of trouble healing the Grievous stacks here in the whole team. Everyone's taking a lot of damage here. Zalia also out of mana at this point. Fragnant's going down. They do have a Battle Rest available, but have to use an Engineering Rest. So Mira's going down too. They're just having issues here with all the Slime Claws walking away because they actually are below 30% and then they walk away. Fragnant's just not releasing. It looks like they're just trying to get him back up once they finish this off. But yeah, a little bit of an issue here for Echo.
Yeah, so that didn't go perfectly for them at all. Gingy actually ended up having to cancel his initial Flame Strike cast, which made him delay his Combust a little bit. And he also dropped his Wonder Grow stacks like halfway through his Combust there. And that means that extra damage instantly goes away on the Flame Patches he has down. So the trash didn't instantly die like it should have, and that caused those extra deaths to come out. So really not perfect execution at all. Cost them those 2 deaths on the board. And yeah, they did get a lot of trash down right away still, but you know, tiny little mistakes like that can cost you if Obey Alliance is going to continue to have the clear run that they're currently having.
And this might still be... I mean, Zalia, as the Pride spawn was completely Maris wasn't here. Maris did release, but did manage to come back to actually use Touch of Death on this Pride to be able to relieve the pressure onto the team here, while four-manning this Pride with lots of Grievous stacks on everybody. And Grievous is also one of those affixes that in the past this priest did have some issues with. They did change it in Shadowlands, and you actually do remove stacks with each direct heal on the target, so that this priest have a little bit of an easier time dealing with it, and it shouldn't be a problem. But whenever something goes wrong like this, then it can actually cause some issues. They did recover though, everyone is now back, but if you look at the trash percentage, they're now both at 41%, so there's no advantage anymore for Echo because of that the trouble that they had earlier. They're actually behind now because of those two deaths on the board too, and Obey Alliance now up to 45% trash, and of course Obey Alliance also being much further in the dungeon just geographically, because they're already on that second boss, while Echo is still dealing with this Plague Borer explosion bomb area.
You know, I'm actually interested as to why we haven't seen any teams opt to use the Plague Borers to do damage to the bosses. We've seen plenty of them use it on the Pride right before the boss, but we haven't seen any Plague Borer damage just go straight in on top of this boss and Dr. Ickes here, so there's got to be a reason for that, right? It must be more efficient to maybe try to burst AoE all the trash down with the boss, because of course those Plague Borers are target capped, right? So you can't get all of their damage on everything. I guess it makes a little more sense to just burst AoE everything down with your cooldowns. But it still feels like it's so much free boss damage here, and when you're in a plus 20 scenario, having, you know, something else push the bosses for you seems really valuable here. And, you know, Echo actually has completely skipped that mini boss. They're just using the Plague Borers to deal with trash here, so we might see some sort of strategy like that come out for them.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same. I do agree that the Plague Borer damage on the boss is very valuable, so I was also a little bit confused why no one was using it. But now we do see Echo just using that Shadow Melt, because they are running the full Shadow Melt comp. They don't have a Paladin on their team, so they just walked past that mini-boss, Shadow Melted off the aggro, and now they are using those Plague Borers to deal with all of this trash. They will be spawning Pride very soon. They might be just keep pulling those Plague Borers on top of the Pride, on top of the boss, which will be very valuable. We'll see how they deal with it, as Obey Alliance is already in the last phase of Dr. Ickes, but they are still behind in trash. On their side, they're 7% behind. But the two deaths on Echo's side, it's still incredibly even between those two teams.
Oh, here we go. This is actually crazy smart. So what they did is they killed the first platform on the front right, so that the boss spawns and jumps there initially. And now with the patrol timing, they were able to finish off all the trash they dealt with. If they wanted to, they could tag the boss right now and pull him in on top of those Plague Borers they have, and they are doing that. They're going to use these Plague Borers to kill both the Pride and help them phase the boss to the first transition earlier. This is exactly what I was talking about. This is just free boss damage here. Look at how much damage these Plague Borers are going to do. Instantly, 8% of the boss's health gone. Now going down to 70% easily with the Plague Borer damage. They just phased the boss for free. I don't know why more teams aren't doing this. This is so easy.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing that I wonder about, though, is that the Pride was already basically dead when the Plague Borers exploded. So it felt like they were just soloing the Pride up until they actually managed to get the boss in. But they have more Plague Borers here. Gingy actually going down. They don't have a Battle Rest available here. This might actually be a little bit of a huge time loss for them, actually. Because they did have the Plague Borers here for Dr. Ickes, but the boss is already dead. Look at the amount of damage these Plague Borers were doing to the boss. The boss just died. They just used those Plague Borers not just once on the boss, but twice. They actually got the double explosion onto the boss here and just completely annihilated the boss.
And you know what's funny is they didn't even have to use their major cooldowns to live through the bomb exploding, because it just didn't get to. They just killed the boss before that would even happen here. And you can see that actually they are pretty much exactly the same progression in the dungeon through Obey Alliance, even with those issues they had earlier on. So you can see the strategy definitely is a faster strategy. You could also even argue that they're ahead of Obey Alliance, because Obey Alliance still has to deal with the rest of that third Predfall, whereas Echo's already getting more trash percentage here. And I think actually, yeah, they should be in the lead right now. They're going to be ahead on trash percentage here very shortly.
Yeah, this is such a close game now because of the extra deaths that Echo has, but the fastest strategy, this can be incredibly close. We will see as they go to this third boss area. Zalia struggling a little bit to keep everyone alive here because of all the Grievous stacks on everybody. Did manage to recover now, though, as they're moving on. We see Obey Alliance gathering up this huge pull in that third boss area. Skylight still having cheap deaths available. It should be alright, as they're also not interrupting that enveloping mist as well, which only roots you, so it's not that big of a deal. That webbing, as you can see, everyone is rooted in melee, but it's a really long cast, and during that cast they can't cast ambush or the stealthlings, so that's why it's not being interrupted. And you can see the fear being used as well to interrupt the stealthling cast. One going through, unfortunately, for Obey Alliance here, but did manage to interrupt it. Echo, on the other hand, doing a very similar pull, just seeing one sniper in the corner.
Yeah, pretty much the exact same strategy. Pulling all of the trash at the same time, bursting it down with those Fire Mage and Windwalker Monk cooldowns. I'm too used to saying Ellie Shaman. Like, I want to see more Ellie. But yeah, just bursting through instantly. No issues whatsoever for them. And again, they are that much further ahead on trash. They have the Prideful for the boss. They're going to be killing that Prideful. They're going to be using that damage buff on the boss, and they have their Bloodlust available too. So even though Obey Alliance has pulled Dominant Venom Blade first, I would not be surprised at all to see Echo actually pull ahead or even catch, well, maybe catch up. They're a little bit far behind, right? Domina's already down to 60% for Obey Alliance, but Echo should definitely burst through this boss a lot faster than we're seeing from Obey Alliance.
Yeah, so the very efficient thing here by Echo is the amount of trash pulls they are doing. As you can see, they're up to 82%, so they don't actually need to do anything else. They have the snipers to seat in the corner, but they can just Shadow Melt off the aggro after they killed the boss. So they don't actually have to deal with the sniper. They're not doing any inefficient pulls as far as I've seen so far. All of the pulls they're doing are very efficient with the Plague Borers or with any sort of extra damage from the Wonder Grow, and all of the pulls that we're doing are incredibly big pulls. So none of the backtracking that we've seen from other comps so far, or other strategies so far from other teams by the Echo strat here. Of course, it seems pretty risky, and that's why they had they're up to 3 deaths. But if executed perfectly, this can be an incredibly fast time by that Echo strategy. Obey Alliance, though, they're now done with the boss, but because they're only 75% trash, they have to actually backtrack a little here and get the extra percent that they need before they can go down to the last boss area.
Yeah, and another interesting thing coming from Echo here, they are not committing the Bloodlust to Dominant Venom Blade here, so they're not bursting through it nearly as quickly as we would have assumed they would with the Bloodlust, but still relatively fast. Now, the one thing I do like about Obey Alliance's strategy, yes, they do have to backtrack for their trash percentage here, but because they're backtracking, it makes their lives much more easier. They're probably just going to end up skipping this Pride, because they don't need the damage buff for anything. Also, you just get to skip, having to kill an entire Pride, which can be kind of a pain when you have a Holy Paladin with no cooldowns. So I think I like that as well, but the problem is with the backtracking they have to do, it's cost them so much time here. They're only just now getting away from that Pride as Echo is finishing off Dominant Venom Blade here, so it looks like Obey Alliance is only really going to be a few seconds ahead of Echo here. And you gotta remember, Echo still has the Bloodlust available for the final boss here. This might actually come down to those 3 deaths on the board. It's incredibly close right now.
This is so close, but looking at Obey Alliance trash, they actually need those slimes. Okay, so you can see them go to the right side because they're at 81%. That means they need those slimes. They do have a Necrolord, and they will be getting that the buffs from the slimes, but usually teams avoided dealing with those just because none of the teams thought it was worth it to go over there to get that Necrolord buff. So Echo not going over to the slimes, they immediately just go to the boss room. So yeah, the difference will be Obey Alliance does have that extra haste buff and the damage reduction from the slime buff, from the Necrolord. But yeah, I'm not sure if this is going to make up the time they're losing for going over there. Of course, Echo also has the 15 seconds on the board because of the 3 deaths, but they also have Bloodlust available. So this is going to be incredibly close between those 2 teams, as both of them don't... I assume Echo also wants to spawn the Pride. We'll see if any of the teams actually decides to skip the Pride or actually play it. We've seen a lot of teams just pull the Pride on top of the boss.
Yeah, we've seen both things. We've seen a lot of just pulling the Pride on top of the boss and cleaving it down in phase 1, and that might be what they're saving the Bloodlust for. But we also saw in Golden Guardian strategy yesterday, they just completely skipped the Prideful, right? And that actually ended up costing them their 1 death on the boss. I remember talking to Shakib after the fact. He's like, I wanted to blink away from the tentacles, but the Pride was there, so I just died instead because we had the battle rest. But yeah, it's just, it gives you 1 extra level of difficulty, right? Because you don't want to be anywhere near that Prideful. It's a very long aggro radius. So, well, okay, with the Pride spawning right on top of the boss, they're very clearly going to be pulling with the boss and probably committing their Bloodlust to it. I would like to see that popped right now, but maybe they'll just save it for another phase. There it is. The Bloodlust coming out for Echo here, and they are engaging the boss. And the Prideful's now up for Obey Alliance as well, and they are also pulling into the boss. But remember, they don't have the Bloodlust available, so this is going to be scary. They're going to have to commit their Ashen Hollow Wings here to try to burn this down. And this is actually just going to come down to these death timers here. This is ridiculously close.
Yeah, this is so incredibly close. So because they have that extra cooldown from the Holy Paladin, they don't need the Bloodlust for this pull here with the Pride and the boss. The Ashen Hollow is just going to heal and DPS through that, as the Pride is now going down for both teams. Echo is ahead on the boss, as they're already started to be in phase 1 here for first intermission phase. Because of that Bloodlust that they also saved up until this very moment, so this is why they were faster in that first phase. But the 15 seconds on the board is probably exactly the difference between Obey Alliance and Echo now. So this is going to be so close, and it's all going to come down to that single target damage. How fast can they push into that second intermission, and how fast can they finish off the boss afterwards? We have a different comp here, right? We have the Windwalker versus the Shadow Priest, and I'm not sure how I would give the edge here to the DPS. Of course, the healer damage difference has mainly been used for the Pride.
This is as close as it gets. I was just keeping a mental tracker in my head on Echo's timer there. Echo's boss became available at 15:49 on the timer. Obey Alliances became active at exactly 16 minutes. So if both teams have the same amount of DPS, Obey Alliance would win by less than 5 seconds based off of the death timer here. It's all going to come down to whether or not Echo can pump out that much more DPS and beat Obey Alliance in this final phase here. And I don't know if Obey Alliance is going to be able to do it. Their Paladin has already popped his cooldowns. He doesn't have that much more left in the tank. And they have the Fey Guardians. They have the power infusion on the Mage for Echo. They should be able to just barely eke this out. It's all going to come down to this final damage amp phase for Echo here. The combustion is out for Genji here. He's bursting it down. Margrave Stradamus is going to be going down for Echo here. Put a timer on the clock when it goes down. It's down at 16:51. 15 seconds on the board for Obey Alliance here. Can they burst it down? The combustion's coming out from Shape Mage here. Down to 10 seconds left here. Margrave Stradamus below 15%. You got to do as much damage as possible if you're Obey Alliance. No healing the Infectious Rays here. Come on.
Oh.
Burn it down. 16:53, 54.
No.
It's going to go to Echo here for sure by literally 1 or 2 seconds. Oh my god.
Oh my goodness on that one. Just 2 or 3 second difference right on the money on that one, Zyro. Echo going to be taking that victory in game number 1. And that's not even the fastest that we've possibly been able to see out of these teams. You know, yesterday we did see Obey Alliance with 16:45 Tettles, so just a couple little errors or a couple little mistakes and everything like that. They could have taken it from Echo.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it comes down to just sanguine healing at the end of the day, and it's just, you have to be perfect to be able to capitalize on any Echo mistake. That was such a close game. that was one of the closest games we've seen all season, and it feels like the whole entire weekend we've just had so incredibly close games between. You see 5 seconds separated.
It's exactly what Zyro said it was going to be. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Wow.
And really at that point, you know, you're looking at just, you know, you mentioned before, Nagura, where Echo starts having a couple deaths and everything, but they're so crazy skilled or fortunate or whatever it is that whenever they make these mistakes or have any sort of deaths, the impact it has on the rest of their run is like so minor. They're so good at just like cauterizing the wound and then just getting back on track so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the mistakes that they had on this really big pull after first boss was actually pretty major because, as Syra mentioned, Gingy did lose their Wonder Grow halfway through his combust, and then they lost 2 damage dealers. They lost Fragnance and Maris. They didn't manage to get Fragnance back up quickly, and Maris had to release. So the Pride spawned and Maris wasn't actually there, and Sally was completely out of mana, and everyone had like 4 stacks of Grievous, and they still somehow managed to finish off their Pride without losing any more players. So the fact that they managed to recover from this is so valuable to them, and if they wouldn't have any mistakes, I can probably tell that this is going to be a much faster strategy if they didn't have those mistakes, but the fact that they still managed to win this after having those issues is really impressive.
Yeah, no question. And Tettles, we got to go over some of those little deaths there as well. Do you have anything for the Sanguine healing too?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was about to say. Like, not only did those deaths occur during this. Okay, so first off, this pull in the dungeon is probably one of the hardest pulls that you're going to be doing over the course of the whole entire weekend, and it's why I think Echo does have a slightly faster strategy, is because they're able to actually do this pull, whereas Obey Alliance is electing to play a little bit safer of a strategy. But on top of that, the issues start to arise like because of Sanguine healing, and because like once you have like 1 or 2 deaths from Echo during this large pull here, then the mobs start to heal with Sanguine. Like Nagura said, Zalia ran out of mana. Their 40% pride spawns halfway through this pack. Like there were like 3 or 4 mobs still alive when their 40% pride is spawning. Mirez and Frag are both dead for at least parts of this, and like there's a lot that went wrong in this pull, and somehow Echo was able to just like keep their composure, kind of claw it back. So look at this right here. This is where Mirez and Frag are going to start to have problems, because the pack is so low, and now all of the mobs are standing in the Sanguine, and even though some of them have the bomb debuff, they were still healing up for an extended period of time, and it just becomes a problem because the pack gets extended for so long. Now then has to start like running away from the pull. And on the other side, Obey Alliance is looking really, really good with what they are trying to do. They are making great use of the Ashen Hollow. They're making great use of their composition. I don't necessarily know if the full Night Elf comp versus the Holy Paladin, which one is necessarily better. But it does seem like at least the major differences was in that first pull that you saw from Echo. That seems like the biggest time save that they had across the whole entire run over that of Obey Alliance. But I thought that Obey Alliance's comp and how they routed through the dungeon with what they had was very solid.
Yeah, no question. And like you mentioned, we've been kind of going back and forth a number of different times for those full Night Elf compositions and everything, and it looked very convincing when we saw, Obey Alliance take the victory over DGS the other day, Zyro, when they were just pressing W, going with the Paladin. And so it's interesting to look at Echo taking the victory with that full Night Elf comp and using the Wonder Grow to a great effect,
Yeah, I mean, not only did they use the Wonder Grow well, I mean, there was the one mistake at the very end of it, but
sure.
I have to give it up for the Plague Borer strategy, right? That's a strategy that we see used in live keys a lot. They pretty much insta-burn Dr. Ickis. It was probably like a 45-second boss when, for most teams that's going to be a minute and a half, maybe even more based off of how, and they also didn't have to commit their AoE cooldowns, right? They saved the AMZ, they saved the bubble if they wanted to use it later on. So it's a really cool strategy, and I think that's something more teams should try to adopt if they have the time to over the next 24 hours. But man, I think if no teams are able to pull that off, Plaguefall is just going to be Echo's wheelhouse there. They were able to take that dungeon with 3 deaths on the board and losing their Wonder Grow buff mid AoE. Like that's
I think
pretty much as worse as it gets, right?
Yeah, and I think honestly though, even though Plaguefall is in the finals and in the one of the lower semis matches, I think that going back into Plaguefall and trying to practice it more and more is definitely that's a dungeon that I feel like is a trap for time. Like I feel like you can spend so much time trying to optimize your Plaguefall more and more because of the Plague Borers and stuff that there is a lot of diminishing returns that can occur, I feel like, by going back and practicing that dungeon more.
Yeah, and, most notably, there was the faster run out of Obey Alliance yesterday, but when we're looking at so many of the mistakes that, Echo kind of tripping over themselves a little bit, still being able to have a very quick run and being able to make up for those mistakes, you got to wonder what that perfect run one-to-one versus both these teams would really look like. But Halls of Atonement up next here, Nagura. We've been seeing a lot of Elisham. We've been seeing a couple double shard pulls. What else is on your mind going into this matchup?
I'm just really excited that we see those fast maps here, like Plaguefall and Halls, because those are always the most flashy ones where we see those insanely big pulls. And I have no doubt that we're going to see some really crazy stuff from Echo and Obey Alliance here. We've seen a really close Halls of Atonement yesterday between Piami and Golden Guardians, where somehow Golden Guardians managed to pull off a huge amount of single target damage on the last boss. So it's exciting to see what kind of comps we're going to be seeing. I do think we're definitely going to see some Elemental Shamans, because Gingy in the interview earlier also said that they have solid AoE damage and that they've been playing the Elemental Shaman. So for sure we're going to see an Elemental Shaman from them. And I also assume that Obey Alliance did also adapt to that method, that we're also going to be seeing the Elemental Shaman from them as well.
Yeah, we saw 40 playing it for Obey Alliance yesterday in Sanguine Depths versus Does Gargoyle Stream, I think was their first matchup, yeah. So we do know that they also play it.
Yeah, and it's been amazing to look at how well these teams have been able to adapt to that. We talked about that a little bit yesterday, Zyro, of, looking at a lot of these melee players or predominantly tank players like Mirez going into ranged DPS more and more and more throughout this season.
Yeah, and I think Ellie Shaman's kind of like a really good replacement for a melee, right? Because different from every other range class. They actually have that 12-second kick CD, which usually you can bring a melee for. They also have a lot of other utility too, right? Ellie Shamans, they have their AoE stun in form of capacitor totem. They have a purge. They have a dispel. They have tremor totem. They're only class to bring that, which is really useful for a lot of things as well. So I think they're actually like a really undervalued spec in terms of the utility they bring. And now that the damage and the healing numbers are there too, I think that they could take a place in like not only the MDI meta, but just like the Mythic Plus key push meta as well.
Yeah, no question. They bring a lot of different tools to be able to kind of fill in some of the gaps and everything like that. So let's see what these teams have in store for us. Echo is up 1 right now as we get into Halls of Atonement.
Huh? No Ellie? Echo?
Wow, okay, that's very interesting. So Echo is not bringing the Elemental Shaman here in Halls, while all the other teams that we've seen so far in this dungeon actually did bring the Elemental Shaman. So it looks like they do prefer the DK, which historically has also been a class that we've seen a lot in those huge AoE dungeons. And we've seen Fragments play DK a lot in Halls specifically. But we've also seen Fragments actually go down on some of those bigger pulls, and it cost them dungeons even. So the fact that they stick to that DK here is very interesting. Both of the teams do pull that double shard onto the left side here, so both doing the exact same strategy. You can see Echo proccing the Pride earlier though. They're already up to 21%, both of them committing the Bloodlust for this pull too.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a... I don't know what the mistake was there, but Jinji bursted for easily 90 to 100k DPS, whereas Shape Mage on the side of Obey Alliance really only topped out at like 50 or 55k, so I'm not really sure what the deal was. Maybe he didn't get PI'd, maybe Chompy, I don't know, maybe Mouse over PI'd someone else, but that something went wrong there for Shape with his Combust. He wasn't able to get his maximum DPS out, and that let Echo deal more damage and spawn the Pride earlier. That being said, with the AoE damage that Ellie Shaman also brings, they were able to cleave down all the trash more quickly. You can see that Echo still has an Obliterator there at 50% HP, whereas Obey Alliance has now finished off the Pride, has finished all of the trash. It doesn't have one single bomb available, so the better execution of the trash pull itself by Obey Alliance has given them a lead here. And also, once again, during that AoE pull, we saw the Ancestral Guidance popped by the Ellie Shaman. He was first or second on the healing meters for a while there, but the Ashen Hollow ended up carrying Ashen Hollow to the top healing spot there later on.
Yeah, so very interesting to see that they had a mistake here with gathering up the pool, because that's going to be the most important thing for these kind of pools that we're seeing here from both sides, Echo and the Bay Alliance. Once they're all gathered up, it's not actually that difficult anymore for those teams to deal with it, because you just use your AoE silences, your AoE stuns, and you just nuke everything down. But to be able to stack up everything, that's the difficult part in the first place, right? So if you have one Obliterator, like we saw for Echo, not actually be in the pack from the get-go, then all of a sudden it costs you a bunch of precious seconds that you need in these kind of speedruns, right? You see both Echo and Obey Alliance now fighting that 40% Pride. It looks like neither of them did actually get the Gargoyle here, as far as I can tell. We do have double Venthyr, of course. Triple Venthyr even, both Fragments and Celia for Echo, while Obey Alliance does have their Paladin being Venthyr to be able to mind control those Stoneborns. Looks like Obey Alliance is carrying their Stoneborn into this pool now, into the next pool, and Echo is doing the same thing.
Yeah, and again, Obey Alliance, able to transition that tiny lead at the start into just keeping that tiny lead after that first pull. They've engaged this pull ever so slightly ahead of Echo here. The Stoneborns are now taken for both teams here, and they're going to be AoEing this pull down. But again, the Ancestral Guidance is back available for 40 here, has been popped, and he's going to be able to help heal his group up here. Didn't actually need to do that much healing here, it looks like, though, because Ashen Hollow is kind of carrying, the player, not the ability, is carrying the healing here. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out what the reasoning is for playing the DK over the Ellie Shaman. And you can see, like, DK is no joke as well when it comes to AoE damage, right? Like, it's up there. It's above the Ellie Shaman for sure. But I'm just trying to figure out what the reasoning for not playing the Ellie Shaman and the Ancestral Guidance is here for Echo. I feel like it's like a perfect use case scenario for it.
You also have AMZ, right? Which is also like incredibly valuable, I guess, for Pride AoE damage. But I guess Pride's not even that big of an issue in Hall specifically anyway, because you have the Stoneborns always helping you out, so usually you don't have to commit any major cooldowns for it. You can see the AMZ being popped by Fragments right now on Echo's side, and it looks like they actually caught up, as their Pride is much lower on Echo's side compared to Obey Alliance. So somehow they did manage to deal with this pull quicker compared to Obey Alliance, but they have this one death on the board, so the 5 extra seconds that is probably making up the difference right now. Yeah, interesting to see that difference in comp. One more thing about the Shaman is that you have an extra Chompy actually going down here on the last tick of the Pride. It looks like they are going to be just using that battle rest to get him back up quickly. So both of the teams now, same death, and also no battle rest is left for either of those teams. But yeah, you have that extra Curse Dispel on the Shaman. So you have one extra Curse Dispel for the stun on the second boss, and you also have Curse Dispels for the Obliterator debuffs as well.
I just noticed something here in the profile select that we have. It looks like Chompy isn't playing the PI Legendary. He's playing the Shadow Fiend Legendary, which I know is a strong option for AoE and just general damage as well, but there's a chance that he just PI'd himself a few times instead of PIing the mage, which might be an oversight. Maybe he thinks he's wearing that legendary, but he's not. So we'll have to see how that ends up playing out for them later on here, but somehow, some way, Echo has kind of... They've chopped that lead a little bit. They've been able to get through this AoE pull on top of Helkias a little bit cleaner, and they're ahead on boss damage here by 20% here. And remember, this is a tyrannical dungeon. 20 tyrannical bosses have a lot of HP to chew through, so even if it's just 20%, that can easily be 600-700k damage, which on single target takes a while to get through.
Yeah, if he would actually PI himself, that would be a huge mistake by Chompy, because of course we do know that PI does not actually belong to the Shadow Priest, it does belong to the mage in the MDI. So that would be a mistake, but we'll see what they do later on, as Echo is now done with the boss. They're finishing off his Houndmaster, are going to be proccing that Pride. Looks like they're on their way to skip it, so all of them already walked up using the invisibility from the mage and the invis potions for the rest of the team to just skip the Pride and skip the Trash too. We've seen some teams play this Pride in the past just to get a damage boost for the second boss, but Echo deciding to skip it. Let's see if Obey Alliance is skipping this as well, but at this point they're pretty far behind because it took them this long to finish off the previous Pride and also finish off this boss, and then having that death on Chompy really cost them quite a lot of time here.
Yeah, that really did cost them a bunch here, right? I mean, they're gonna finish off this Houndmaster here, and then they'll be able to invis after the fact, but they're just so far behind here. They're even further behind than Golden Guardians was against PIME yesterday, so there's gonna have to be some sort of major mistake from
they're in
Echo, I
combat.
feel like, at this point, and 40 is now in combat with the Pride. He's gonna have to die, but fortunately nobody else is in combat. They'll just have to AoE res him up here, but that's more time on the board for them, right? That's just an extra 20 seconds or so that Echo gets to expand their lead, and oh, it looks like another player's in combat now too. Chompy has to go down. Is anyone else in combat? Are we going to chain this a little bit more? Oh no, the Pride's coming for more.
Yeah.
This is as bad as it gets. They're
This
going
is
to
a
have to
full team wipe.
Yeah, this is going to be all... I mean, against a team like Echo, this is pretty much all she wrote, right? I don't know what you can do to come back from this. Echo has to full team wipe themselves for Obey Alliance to come back in this one.
They can't even get there. They're going to need to have 40 run through, die, and then use Ankh.
Yep.
Because they don't have invisibility potions, right? So I'm not sure why everyone's really...
Well-
Yeah, 40 did Ankh just now. I don't know why everyone else released. I guess they're just gonna have to die again as he's resting, but yeah. Yeah, at this point, it's really just all eyes on Echo. Of course, there's still really risky pulls left for Echo, so they could be making a mistake, but this is a really huge time loss for Obey Alliance. To be able to get everyone back here, it's just going to cost them so much time. This is the risky thing about the Pride skips, right? Everyone is using that Invis potion, but if somehow one person doesn't manage to get the Invis off fast enough and gets in combat, then you do risk your whole group getting in combat with it because of the way the Pride works with that global combat. So yeah, just huge tunnels for Obey Alliance as Echo is now almost done with Atonement. I mean, that boss on Tyrannical does take quite a long time. Did manage to get through it pretty quickly. Of course, they didn't have the Pride buffer because they skipped it, and they also didn't have Bloodlust. We'll see what they use Bloodlust for. I assume they used it for the last boss because, of course, they just don't have it ready for this next pull. So the next pull without the Battle Rest and without Bloodlust is also going to be pretty dangerous for them.
Yeah, and Skylark has now joined the group, but I think they're still waiting on Chompy here. Chompy's going to go ahead and die to the trash. He's going to have to get rezzed up, and then they'll be able to engage the boss. But I mean, look at what Echo's done in the meantime here. They're already onto the third boss with the trash. The Ashen Hollow and Wings are popped for Azalea. He's going to start popping off in the damage meters here any moment now, and yep, there he goes, only behind the combusting on AoE Fire Mage. You know, all is well in the world here. The Fire Mage can still top AoE damage. But yeah, it's just really unfortunate to see that happen for Obey Alliance, especially after that Plaguefall where they showed that they can hang with the best in Echo there. I mean, by all means, Obey Alliance, if they were just a little bit more clean, if they were as clean as they were yesterday, they would have taken that game and we'd be seeing a Game 3 right after this one. But, man, really a shame to see this happen in Game 2 here.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate for Obey Alliance here. And yeah, things like that can happen, of course, for the Pride skips. But, I mean, they were already behind before the Pride skip, right? So if Echo is not making any further mistakes, even if it's just a small mistake, then unless Obey Alliance somehow has this miracle single target damage that we've seen Golden Guardians pull off on the last boss, then it would have been hard for Obey Alliance to catch up to Echo anyway, just because of how good Echo is and how efficient they're dealing with everything so far. They dealt with the trash, so they're now, they only have the boss left at this point. They're up to 93% trash, which is of course enough trash to be able to proc the Pride from the mini-boss in the next boss area. We're gonna have to see what they do with the Pride. I would assume they don't have the Invis Potion ready yet. As you can see, we're only 10 minutes into dungeon, and they used the Invis Potion for the 80% Pride. So I would assume they have to play the 100% Pride, maybe pull it on top of the boss, because they have the Bloodlust available, so they might be able to just nuke it down with the boss, with Ashen and all the offensive cooldowns they have available, AMC as well by Fragments, so they should be able to do that later too. So this is going to be a really fast run by Echo.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing we should take away from this. Yes, it looks like Echo's going to be winning, and yes, Obey Alliance is kind of out of it here. But I'm interested to see how this run from Echo compares against the runs that we saw from Golden Guardians and PIME yesterday, because by all means, those were pretty clean runs on their own. Only one death from each team in that run as well. And those times were pretty much dead on even. One was 14-13, one was 14-20. So if Echo is kind of up to the caliber that we're used to them being at, they should be able to compete with that, if not beat it, based off of what we've seen in the past. And they are going for the same strategy that we saw from other teams yesterday. They're using that Gargoyle, that Loyal Stoneborn, to help burst down Inquisitor Cigar here right away. Not even waiting for that first, well, they did wait for the first communion cast, and now they're going to be able to easily burst it down. But let's see, if they do end up killing the Prideful, like you mentioned here, that actually would end up being a single target damage increase if they just pure cleave it down with Bloodlust. I don't think the Ashen is going to be available, though. They just used it on the third boss, though, right?
I didn't see if Zella did use it, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he did, because it's such a difficult pull. But yeah, it looks like they are dealing with the Pride. They're not moving just yet. They had the Stoneborn up for a little while longer, but only for like 2 auto attacks or something. So they're just slowly moving to the boss. We do see the Combustion just now coming back up for Gingy. We don't see an Ashen or anything just being popped yet, so we'll see how they deal with this. Now the boss is being pulled on top. And yeah, if we look at the time, the fastest time we've seen yesterday was by Golden Guardians, and it was 14 minutes, 13 seconds. And if we look at the time, they're probably going to beat that timer. I don't think they're going to need 2 minutes for the boss, but we're going to have to keep an eye on that. It is a Tyrannical, of course, and a +20, so it might take them a while. And without the Ashen, or maybe Zella is going to be getting the Ashen back up later. They still have Bloodlust available, so they might even be waiting for that cooldown to come back up.
This is one of the things that allowed Golden Guardians to catch up to and surpass PIME yesterday in the final boss of Halls of Atonement here. They saved the Bloodlust for the Ashen Hollow, which if my internal clock is correct, it should be coming up in like 15 to 30 seconds here. So we'll see if he's about to pop that. But yeah, they saved, there it is right there.
Oh, there
Ashen
we go.
Hollow coming out from Zalia. So yeah, there it is. They saved the Bloodlust so that the last 30 seconds of the Bloodlust overlap with the Ashen Hollow, whereas PIME just popped it right away on the pull with the first Combust. And that helped them really come back there. So here we go. 1 minute left on the board to beat the time from Golden Guardians yesterday. Let's see if they're able to burst through it. Look at how fast Lord Chamberlain's health is just being melted with the Bloodlust and the Ashen Hollow being popped right there. Zalia, just even with the late Ashen Hollow wings pop, just actually going to be passing up the mage on pure single target, man. What is this game?
Maris also did give PI to Zalia here, so Gingy had used Combust before PI was ready, and then Maris did just pop the PI on Zalia to give him some extra damage as Lord Chamberlain is going down, and it's at 13 minutes 45 times, so the fastest we've seen so far, as Echo wins this game against Obey Alliance.
Yeah, people really think that Power Infusion belongs to the mage, but in reality, it just belongs to the paladin on that one. Echo taking the victory in a very convincing fashion on that one, and setting up a fantastic time. And we got to keep in mind, Tettles, compared to the regular Cup season, we're 2 levels